Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a story time video about the time I got stranded in New York City. And this happened to me back in October of 2015. I flew there for BeautyCon, which was the 17th of October, but I flew there the day before so I can actually do some tourist traveling kind of things, so like looking at stuff. Tourism, I guess it's called. So yeah, we flew there on the 16th, and if you guys didn't know, I am from Michigan, so Michigan, we had to go to Detroit Airport and then fly from Detroit to LaGuardia. And flying there, no problem. We didn't get much sleep the day before we flew because it was a Thursday night, and I worked on Thursday night. I stayed, worked until 10 or 10:30. My mom got off the same time, so we're like, there's no point of sleeping if our plane leaves at 6 o'clock. So we flew there, fine. We got to, from LaGuardia to Manhattan, we took a bus, because if you guys didn't know, LaGuardia is in Queens and Manhattan is where we were going. So we had to take a bus there because it's two separate division. I forget what it's called exactly, but it's divisions or districts or something, I don't know. So yes, we took a bus from LaGuardia over to Manhattan, and then from there we just got to our hotel and everything was good. So coming back, we had a flight scheduled for I think 7 in the morning to leave to go back to Detroit, but our plane was set up from the ones we bought. We went through Southwest, so Southwest is had connecting flights to get back to Detroit. So our plane from LaGuardia goes to Chicago, and then Chicago to Detroit, which makes no sense because if Detroit's here and Chicago's here, why stop Detroit then Chicago, right? I don't know. So we left our hotel about 4 in the morning, and we tried to plan out the night before how we were going to get to LaGuardia from Manhattan, because we didn't know how to, because the way there we had a bus and there was a bunch of stuff outside that said, oh, get to Manhattan from here with this bus. But we were like, okay, there's no buses in Manhattan that go over to LaGuardia. So we had this little pamphlet that said, if you go to Grand Central Station, it's like the subway stations, there's a bus that takes you at 5 in the morning. So we go down on the subway, and we get on the subway, everything's fine, and then we go to Grand Central Station, or maybe it was Penn Station. I think it was Grand Central, actually. I don't actually remember. But then we go upstairs to see if the bus is there, and then there's this huge gate. The bus is how we were going to take it back to get to LaGuardia, and there's this huge gate right there. And we're like, we can't get out those doors, and it's we're running low on time. It's maybe getting 5, maybe 5:30. I am not really sure exactly at the time, but it was just getting close to the time we're supposed to be at the airport. So we're go back downstairs into the bottom part of the subway, and there was a guy in some kind of glass bin, and we're like, how do we get to LaGuardia from here? We have to catch a plane at so and so time, which I'm just gonna say it's 7, but I think it was 6 is when we had to check in or something. And he's like, oh, go hop back on and take the 2-2 and stay on it or something. I'm not really sure what he said. He just said get back on the subway, basically. So we get back on the subway, and we're just sitting there, and when we get on, we see this guy with a little bag, and we're like, oh, we're gonna follow you because you're probably going to this LaGuardia too. And we're just sitting there, and I noticed since we were on the subways for about a day or so, there was this little light thing that blinked every time you were at a stop. And I'm just looking across, and it says LGA, and I'm like, that says LaGuardia. So we're gonna stay on there until then. So we got to this last stop, which said LaGuardia, and we watched the guy with the suitcase get off, so we followed him. And, are you going to LaGuardia? And she goes, yeah. So we followed him. And I guess if you had your Metro pass with you, which was a subway card, you got a free ride off onto this bus that took you to LaGuardia. So we're like, okay, that's cheap. We paid $2 to get on the subway, and now we get a free bus ride over. We paid $14 to get from LaGuardia to Manhattan the first time. So we hop on this bus, and then we get to the airport finally, and we're just kind of waiting there, get in line. We're checked in our bags. Everything was good. It was maybe 6:40 at the time, and the lady's like, okay, you're all set. So we put our bags in this drop-off area, and we go stand in line to go through security. And all of a sudden we're standing in line, and all of a sudden someone screams blank and blank, which is my mom's name, and kind of running fast, and we're like, did they find something in our bags? Like, why are they screaming my mom's name? And they were like, you're not, he comes up to us and my mom's like, that's me, and he comes up to us like, you guys aren't gonna make your flight, and we're like, what do you mean? Like, we were never told we were gonna make it. We're like, we still have a good maybe half hour, but he's like, you're not gonna make it, your bags, we can send them off. And he goes to the lady that checked our bags, like, why didn't you tell them that they were gonna make their flight? Started yelling at this girl. But honestly, I was kind of frustrated too, because she didn't tell us or like give us information. So after he yelled at her, she was telling us, okay, we have the next available flights, and I'm like, okay, what time do these flights leave? I was getting kind of angry because I was just like, we need to get back to where we're going. And she's like, well, this one is out to Nashville at it's gonna be here soon. I'm like, what time are we gonna get back to Detroit? Because my mom had to work at like 2. She goes, I don't know. So she's like, okay, I put you on standby, and you guys are gonna be the first ones on standby. So okay, we go down to this like gate where it was going to from LaGuardia to Nashville, but there was a stop in Detroit, and then it went to Nashville. So we're like, okay, we're gonna get on this one. So we ate, like, that plane didn't leave till like 9 o'clock. So we're in the airport for like a good like 2 hours, and we're just eating. They didn't have anything good there. Like, our airport is very nice compared to LaGuardia's. Like, it was kind of like gross. It was like, didn't have any restaurants in it. Like, ours had like McDonald's. It had stores in it. It was pretty nice, ours, but theirs wasn't really nice. So we're just eating a donut and drinking some coffee. And then all of a sudden we're just waiting. At the time it's starting to like maybe at 8:30, and then we're starting to see the people all show up, and we're like, we're not gonna make this flight. There were so many people. You could just tell that they were going to Nashville. They had the cowboy boots on, their cowboy hats on, and we're like, yeah, we're not gonna make this one. And the lady that was at the desk and says, yep, you guys aren't gonna make this one. You'll make the next one. And that one was going to Midway, which was Chicago, back to Detroit, which was basically the same flight that we already booked previously, but at a later time. So we eventually did get on that one, and we had to have separate seats. Like, me and my mom didn't sit next to each other. I sat in the middle of 2 people. She sat in the middle of 2 people, like, across the plane. Whatever. It was only like a hour and a half flight to Chicago. We landed, and we're just kind of like waiting around when our next flight's gonna happen, because we didn't even know if we were gonna make the one from Chicago to Detroit. And the lady's like, I don't know, it's a possibility you can make it. So we're like waiting. We're like, oh God, like, I hope we make it back, because by the time we would make it back, it'd been like 2 o'clock already, and the airport's like almost 2 hours away from my house. So we're like, that means we'll get back at 4. So we were just waiting, and realized that it was an hour behind. So we're like, why isn't everyone saying it's certain a time or something? And we're like, it's like 11 o'clock here, and it's like 12 o'clock in Detroit. So it was like, oh, Central Time. So yeah. Then eventually we were like sitting down, like waiting. We're just playing on our phones, like kind of far away from the gate. And all of a sudden they said, Courtney Walker. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, really? Like, why did they just say my name? I looked at my mom, like, did they just say my name? And she goes, I don't know. Let's go see. So we went over to the gate, and they're like, oh, you guys are gonna make this one. I'm like, oh, okay. So we got our stuff, went in the line, and we did make it back. We still had to sit separately, but whatever. Made it back to Detroit like 2 o'clock, and then, like I said, it took us to like a 2-hour drive back to my house. My mom, of course, was late for work, but there was nothing really we can do. But the moral of this whole story is, make sure you know what you're doing the night before. If you're going to a place that you don't know exactly what time you're going to get to airport, allow as much time as you can. Maybe get 4 hours beforehand. Like, you want to make sure you get to your place and your destination on time. So, yeah, that's the moral of the story. If you guys want more Storytime videos, just let me know in the comments down below, because I am going to Dallas in March for BeautyCon. So, let me know if you guys are going, and I hopefully will have a Storytime from there as well. And make sure you guys subscribe, and also go follow me on Instagram and Twitter at CJWalker735, and add me on Snapchat at CJWalker735 as well. All the links will be listed down below. And yeah, so I will see you guys on Sunday.